spans on this motherfucker. Yo, we got homie on BeatStars.com. 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 BeatStars.com.
How's it going? It's Man Tomorrow here. I want to thank y'all for coming through. Thank y'all for like, sharing, commenting, and subscribing to my channel. You have to understand that at this point in time, you can't help men who tune into relationship type conversations. You can't help men who still trying to understand female nature. You can't help men who is well intent on being a stepdad or trying to net them an uncultured woman. You can't help men like that. And actually, no group of people who came over here, not the Germans, not the Italians, not the French, the British, anybody who came over here, they came over here to get their shit done. And like the level of suffering or even a hard time was supposed to be only a one generational thing. And once you start to understand how America works on groups. America works on families. America works on being able to participate in the actual process itself. So what you have to realize and understand is that nobody can really help you understand the basics of society. If you're talking about Asian men and what they're doing, you should be stomped the fuck out in the streets. You should be ducking sniper fire. You, as a black man, should be ducking sniper fire for letting people just being minimally participatory in the actual political process hop over you to talk about all this other dumbass shit. If you rode with those people and you learned a lesson from those people, you would know how they operate. One thing they ain't doing is they're not trying to feed their men into uncultured women. They're not trying to prepare their men to actually take over as a relief pitcher at the top of the ninth with a 99-0 score based on the previous interaction of the other pitcher that built an environment that didn't work for men. period. Other cultures have the actual idea that all this other stuff works. But see, you got to have a level of participation. Think about it. You're at work. You have no problem participating while your ass is at work. And society is no different. You have minimum levels of things that you're supposed to be doing, minimum levels of things that you're supposed to be interested in, minimum levels of things. But when you take your stupid ass out there and start talking about reparations and stupid shit like that, when you only got a minimum level of support in the actual election cycle, while talking about how you're going to greatly benefit from a system that you're not participating in, but your actual participation in the system is contingent upon them giving you something to participate for. You don't want to work from the shit from the bottom to the top. These people come over here with actually no rights to vote in any of that other shit. And they got more out of this experience than you did. This stuff really isn't that difficult and it's not that hard. But when you intently go to the wrong people for the right answers to questions, you're going to have a very hard time participating in society. Most of these people around the planet are actually moving into these areas so that way they can start swallowing up this land in the area from the north to the south. So that way they can be the owners of the businesses around these UBI zones that's going to be created. Because there is a group of people who do not want to participate in society but want to benefit off of it. This stuff really isn't that hard. And this is why you don't see most of the people who get their actual things done in Congress. You don't see them out here discussing stupid shit. There ain't no Asian man culture warrior out here spreading bullshit among people. They're not out here doing this. You don't have men out here trying to pick up the pimp persona and try to put it out to their people. You don't have that from other cultures. You don't even have people picking up the actual mafia persona and presenting it to the people. You got one person who's actually have a very large channel talking about his past, but in no way, shape, form, or fashion is he trying to push that type of stuff on their people. At this point, the women have power because of the bitch ass niggas in the environment gave it to them. That's what happened here. And no, you're not supposed to be chasing after some other whack dude's level of masculinity. It doesn't work that way. So what you got to recognize is that, dude, how these other people did it, once they got here, all right, let me give you an example. Once my father had died, the neighborhood we moved into, there was an actual a corner store that was owned by they were Japanese. And I was very good friends with the actual son. And the son, brilliant guy, very smart guy, blah, blah, blah. Those people were coming over here every 7 years, switching out their store from one ownership to another, to another, to another, taking advantage of all the tax breaks and all this kind of stuff that was happening. And those kids, once they got here, they became very attuned to how America works. They came here and made straight A's and everything. Because your job as a parent is to make sure that your son don't have to pay for college. The only thing you have to do is pay for them a place to stay, not college itself. And that's why that guy now works at the Pentagon, making a gang of money because he was a smart ass dude. So they were always talking about policies. They were always in the newspapers, always, because I hung around their family, because me and him were the same age. Actually, he was a year younger than me, but he got skipped up another grade because he was just a brilliant dude. So they were already talking about the policies and organizing with the people in the city and looking out for what type of jobs that they're going to be into in the future. Dude, we talking about in the late 80s and early 90s. They were doing this. While people were shopping at their stores and all that kind of stuff. And once we graduated, I went my way, he went his. But see, this struggle thing isn't supposed to be a one generational thing. It isn't supposed to be a lifestyle that you keep repeating over and over again. And you cannot wait on other people to come with you who's not going to be part of your end goal or where you're actually moving. This is why you got so many brilliant orators who don't actually lead to anywhere. You can't ask them about how do you scale this nonsense that you talk about into actual benefits for the actual people that you represent, because they want to hold you they want to corral you into a holding pattern of representing the same nonsense to you over and over and over again, because we had a level of anti-intellectual inbreeding and anti-process understanding and participation inbreeding as well. And you had the people who always wanted to be most validated by the environment, who put the least amount of actually investment in the environment itself. And that's kind of where we at right now. What's going on, Mike?
Yo, what's going on, MOT?
Yeah, and it's like, for some reason, that we act like this stuff is way too hard, where we should be way more disciplined behind the scenes. I mean, hey, have this foolishness out in the public. Make them think that we're not actually paying attention, but you better show your ass up and keep abreast of what the things are going on in the actual society itself, because it does affect you. And you can't worry about things after they've already happened. You have to worry about them on a consistent basis. Every other community has this already under control, but somehow we don't have that for some reason.
Yeah, definitely, man. I think there is, a lot of the community lacks cultural resilience. So the ability for your culture to bounce back, from any sort of societal impact, right? We could see during the pandemic how many people within the community couldn't make it. Soon as the businesses shut down for 30 days, everybody had to go into quarantine. A lot of guys were losing their hats. A lot of bonnets were, a lot of women losing their bonnets. And so this is where we are right now. And people did not prepare ahead of time because there was no, cultural preparedness for this. It just wasn't built into the culture at all.
And it's like, if there's anybody who deserves to be more participatory in anything in society, it's the people who's going to be the most affected. It's like, there's really no logical reason why the people who's most affected for things to not be involved in the process at all. I mean, at some point, you got to let this stuff go and be like, look, we got to have a level of participation that's 100%. That's why we got the right to vote in the first place, because we wanted to participate and control the trajectory of where we were going according to policy. Because when you have policies that are actually affecting how you be able to move within the environment, and you don't have the ability to say something against it, you're actually at a disadvantage.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people who didn't respect the process, and didn't want to take a side, are now in 2021 saying, yo, where's that stimulus check at? These are the same people who wanted to vote against it last year. Now this year they're asking, where's that check at? Yeah,
of course. Thank you for the $20 super chat. Again, we're back in. Why do we have all these BW disrespect amounts on YouTube videos? They only apply it on an individual level. So I guess we're supposed to make it the one we respect us. Listen, like The problem is that they want to try ineffective things so that way they can be actually pretty validated and wasting a lot of time with things that don't matter. Other societies and cultures where their women have actually disrespected their men on a pretty open basis, they just leave the women alone. Period. They don't make trying to be with such personnel the actual cornerstone of their actual masculinity. They just move on to other women who are actual women, period. Like they don't worry about uncultured women past a certain point. Like right now, you can't worry about 50, 40, 30 something year old people who've grown up within this environment where they actually made it without having a level of respect for men. I just think that more principled men is going to beat out the more women allies within this environment. I don't even think the women even comes into a factor nowadays. It's just that look, if this uncultured woman is your end goal that you want to be with, then you're already fighting against your own progress as a person already. So
Yeah, principled men create principled environments. I mean,
yes.
a person who's not principled is not going to be able to weather the storm inside there. So, you know, for all of this talk about you know, women making videos and things of that nature, we have to understand that it's easy for anybody to go live. We see that now with certain failed athletes go live and 20,000, 30,000 people up in the chat following them. So it doesn't matter, you know, about what they say in those videos. A collective of principled men are going to create a principled environment, and that's just the end of it. At the end of the day, we see this, you know, in different communities. You know, if you look at the Chinese community, they put their language on everything in Chinatown, and you know, you got to speak their language to understand them. They hire their own people. That's how their communities kind of operate. Whereas here, man, you know, you have a lot of people who want to get on, they want the hookup, man, but they don't respect the process and they don't want to take a side at the end of the day. So, I mean, once you have, you know, more than a handful of principled men, that whole situation is going to change. That's why fraternities are so strong, because all of those men, the majority of the men who stay in there are pretty principled.
And they have to adhere to a certain standard,
yeah,
too, as well. It's like they're not going to let anybody just join their fraternity who isn't going to stay in school and who's going to represent their brand bad at the end of the day when things are over with. Like, look, whenever somebody's in the military and it messes up very bad, dude, the actual branch that they were a part of puts out all their personal information to let you know that, look, these are not the values that we uphold, and this individual is not going to be a part of our representing our organization, even though he's an actual alumni of it. And these are not the actual skills and abilities that we have going forward. But when you have people who just want to benefit without investment, I mean, because it's very easy to know what things sound like when you're actually involved and you're actually invested. But we have this type of societal, communal non-investment that acts as investment to where you're actually talking ridiculous stuff about working class men. You're actually trying to put your actual selection choice of uncultured women above other actual men who may not have that chance of choice within the environment. Is something that somebody needs to go for. You know, all the things that would actually, you're chasing all of the things that would actually damage your ability to be able to independently produce and pursue happiness within an environment as a cultural standard within an environment. It makes absolutely no sense.
Yeah, and that's why you see a lot of people trying to avoid certain discussions. They want to be the center of the discussion, but avoid the context as a whole. You know, if you're not talking about policy and not taking a side, you know, not talking about job training or upskilling people, that for that matter, a better description for it. What value are you bringing to the conversation? These are all areas of being principled that's going to lead to a better outcome at the end of the day. At least one of them is.
Yeah. I mean, because the less time that you spend looking for a sexual meal ticket and the more time that you spend on actual economic outcome, you don't have to worry about the other thing. It gets solved by the other thing itself. Right. So you don't have to worry about all of that stuff unless you're trying to get stuff together and trying to move yourself back into an environment that you're supposed to be in. This is why the self-improvement thing, the major part of the self-improvement piece was moving on to better people who respected where you are at now. But a lot of people wanted to just self-improve enough so that way they can be able to keep lowering themselves within environments that doesn't make any type of sense overall.
Yeah, a lot of people just want to they want to showboat, man, in the end zone when you're in the wrong end zone, man. That's not a touchdown. What are you doing? So the biggest problem I see right now is that everybody want the ball, but everybody want to move in the wrong direction, man. You offsides, move before the snap, movement before the snap and things of that nature. You're not following the process. You don't really care about what the outcome is going to be because you're not the one that's going to pay for it. Somebody else is going to have to pay for that. But this is how the community kind of moves. And when you try to address certain people, man, they're like, nah, man, we CNB. We all we got. All right, man. All right.
Yeah. And these be the first person opening their mouths about Black Lives Matter. That's a private organization where other people donated to. How is anything that you say is going to affect an environment that you didn't donate to? Or worse, well, look at what the Asians get. The Asians already got a bit. Yeah, because they play both sides and they're united as a people and they already got their productivity thing working for them first and foremost. Yes, those people are knocking it out of the park when it comes to the actual competing in society. So, of course, when you got the greater majority of people who are productive in society and they actually have a fund that they all are required to as a culture to donate to, they have that. As a people, they have that.
It's interesting that you bring that up because in Lebanon, one of the ways the mechanisms that they put in place after the Civil War was over, because there was a lot of lost fathers and things of that nature, they set up institutions. And everybody in the community has to donate 2.5% of their annual income to the fund in order to keep the services going. So some people had to go to school to become electricians, licensed electricians, because a lot of the infrastructure fell apart. There was no power in the neighborhoods. There was no running water and things of that nature. They had to come up with solutions at the end of the day in order to further, the progress of the community itself. And everybody in the world, whether you lived in Lebanon or not, if you're in America or you're in South America, you're in Europe, yeah, you still got to contribute 2.5% of your income to the community to help rebuild it so it can have some stability and progress at the end of the day.
Correct. The glorious one, thank you to our super chat time circle knowledge of peak and to your mic. Yeah, man, thanks for coming through. Like, this is what people don't understand. Like, for a community, there's a plan. For those people, there's a plan for their kids. Like when they get together, everybody's on the same plan. It's not this sexual, animalistic thing that we have here, like these accidental families. No, those families are created for a purpose of moving forward, no matter who they're with. And no, they don't have to sign the actual laws of marriage, and they actually stay together. And it's like people follow a different process that works, and they're not any smarter than you, sir. It's just that they're a more applied. Like, participation is an applied science. Like, you have to understand and know what's actually going on here through an applied science about how to get results. But you got the people who have made themselves the voice of a movement that they don't want to lead to any type of conclusion. They want to just have the 42 or 43 years into the desert after they got through worshiping the golden calf type of movement. That's kind of the thing that we have seen within this space. And this is why people are conservative for every other reason except for talking about policy, politically organizing, or job training. They're conservative for every other reason except for that.
Yeah. I mean, some people are rebranding themselves as, culture first, politics second, and then policy third. Like, wait, what? Is that what we're doing here? No. The way you shape your environment, it comes from the top. It doesn't come from the bottom. Policy shapes the environment, and the environment will shape the culture. How humans interact with the environment determines the culture itself. There's crosswalks on roads in America for a reason, man. You have to abide by certain rules and principles in order to stay safe and in order to have a functional environment. You go to other countries and you'll see people walking up and down the street, in the middle of the street, cars not stopping, properly, motorcycles weaving in and out of traffic. That's a chaotic environment. But that's how they have to interact with the environment, because the policy up the top that came from the top was minimal or not enforceable to begin with. But in order for this to work here, there has to be some principles involved, and that includes policy. The policy has to shape the environment in a way that allows people to interact with it that becomes beneficial to them. But if all you're going to have is people grifting off the environment, claiming to be conservative for all the wrong reasons, what value does it serve at the end of the day?
But that's the thing. They're not here to serve any value. For them, the end justify the means. Like the end of keeping people not really focused and involved in things of how they should actually go forward is okay with them, because they missed their chance to be productive and actually competitive within the environment itself. So they just want to take up the other level of new black male productivity, which is actually eyeballs and, likes and views and all this other stuff that has nothing to really do with moving the people forward. And it's like, how can you move the people forward if you're trying to corral them into a spot that they're not going to be able to get out of? It just doesn't make any sense.
Or using promiscuity as a litmus test for your masculinity. I can't understand how that's going to be, beneficial on a globalized economy. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Every Negro is a capitalist now. I'm a capitalist Negro. I'm a capitalist, right? I support, laissez-faire economics, that sort of deal. That sounds good, man, but how are you going to apply that outside of the discussion? And a lot of these people, especially the men, are not able to manifest their ideas into reality. So they try to sell you a whole bunch of BS, but at the end of the day, nothing good is coming out of that conversation at all, man. You can go live as many times as you want in your car, or you can. I think there's some background noise. Or you can use as many women as you want to justify your so-called pseudo masculinity, but at the end of the day, where is that going to get you? You really think you can sit down in Silicon Valley or in Dubai and do business by how many women you've been able to get chosen up by?
Yeah, but this is what I'm saying. It's like, is this really the actual height of what we can do as actual men, though? Like, that's what that is. It's like, okay, you got the digital twerking thing going on, right? And there's really no progress. Now everybody want to be the voice of the everyday black man who's not really moving forward and who's really cultured on uncultured women in their actual opinion. Everybody wants to be that guy now. And that doesn't really get you anywhere. And they want to try to mix in with the actual legitimate business people around the environment. And they're actually running into the fact that don't nobody in actual legitimate business don't want to be around culture warriors, because culture warriors are about consuming things, even if it's people that they actually deal with, to actually create an outcome that doesn't go anywhere. So at the end of the day, the culture warriors end up fighting with each other because they're not trying to move forward, which is a very easy and simple thing to do. But for them, they have to consume and grift off the environment itself. And so that's why it's really just never going to really be able to go anywhere or get off the ground, What's wrong with go?
Hey, bro. Yeah. You're breaking it down really good. At the end of the day, guys who are productive, not messing with this bullshit. They're not out here playing around with these guys, talking all this kind of crap about getting with uncultured reptilians and all that. Hey, folks ain't got time for this. If you're about your purpose, you're not wasting time with this. I talk to people. I met people right now. I have people calling me that I talk to that are not even talking about this. They're not talking about this. I'm talking to a brother. Not only is he getting his computer stuff and all together, he's also learning a foreign language and helping out with his Spanish and everything else like that. They're not talking about these hoes. Are you guys kidding me? They're not talking about it. You see a lot of this craziness in this space. You see some of the other guys who are coming in here on the grift, trying to make money because the conservative thing and all this other crap that they're talking about is a moneymaker. So I was talking with Brother Mike just the other day, and we were talking about these guys are jumping in on one big pot, and they're trying to split it all up between them to try to make as much money as they can on it. That's all they care about. They ain't even caring about you as a brother. What are these guys? What is this so-called conservative stuff that they're doing? Helping you. Where are you getting paid? They're not even talking about even giving you a fair wage. New York, I'm going to say this very quickly. You're going to think this is off the point, but it's not. New York, why do they have almost 2 million new residents come into the state over the last year? People are shocked by it. Why is this? New York City's clearing out, but yet everybody's coming into New York State. Why? Because they're paying a higher wage. That's what they're doing. They're paying a higher wage, and you can move. You can be outside on the outskirts of the city, get a decent rental place, and you can make some money. You can work overtime and do whatever. Not be skilled, not be that highly skilled. Work in some of these base level jobs. All right, and you can do all the overtime you want. And you can make $50,000 a year. Okay, that's reality. That's why people are coming to the state. The deal of this is you gotta talk. You gotta look at what's real out here. People, you gotta go after your cheddar, get your money right, get your mind right, get all the stuff right, and go after that. Nobody's here wasting time with these hoes. Are you fucking kidding me? Who out here's got time for that? Who really is about their purpose, wasting time with these hoes? Who's doing that? Who's doing that? The retards, the sucker lades, the grifters. That's it. Any brother out here who's in this chat, who's on their purpose, ain't fucking with this whole shit. They ain't fucking with them. They ain't thinking about them. And you want to talk about SYSBM? SYSBM, the real SYSBM guys are not even running around in this space. They want to avoid half of these Negroes. They ain't want to talk to them. John Thompson, all these guys who I've known since the late 90s. The real SYSBM guys. They're not here. They're not in this space looking at this craziness. You ask me a real SYSBM.
Yeah, man, but this is what we're talking about. It's like,
and speaks two
that's only
languages. Come on, MOT, you kidding me? These guys ain't. Come on. Anyway, I'm done. Go ahead.
and the job training. Like, listen, if most of these dudes were to go into skilled trades and stop messing around with these minimum wage level jobs, dude, you wouldn't be worried about immigration as a person. You wouldn't be worried about it. If you moved up and stopped trying to have a protected bottom, you wouldn't have to worry about what these other people are doing. You're way ahead of them, 20 years ahead of them. You can't be worried about things that you don't need to be worried about, man. And that's the thing. I don't understand how it is that people just don't get how simple this is to fix within one generation. And you don't need women allies to do this. You need individual action on your own part. Getting to be a part of the actual economy on your own part. I understand that there are constraints based on whatever city that you could possibly be in, especially if it's the rural South or something like that. But if you know people from out of town, man, you can just move out of town once you get your tax return and actually be able to save up to move up. But a lot of people don't want to do this type of investment, but they do the other type of investment where they try to do a hell of a lot more investment to attract people who don't really care about your outcome all that much. And it doesn't work. And now we got the collective ignorance of the environment. The kids, the way they're being socialized nowadays, they don't need their parents to tell them pretty much any of this stuff. They don't need them that much. They don't need them to tell them the truth about what success is and what failure is. They've lived that life already. And a lot of these people are just crying out for real leadership, man. They're not really crying out for more culture warriors and all that kind of stuff. That's what the demo's at. Like most of the dudes who's between the 25 to 50 range, they just want to be entertained. They don't want to move forward. They love this stuff the way it is. And the way that this stuff is going to cause us a hell of a lot of harm. Because you can't be a competitive environment complaining about things not actually going your way and actually not having any participation.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I mean, I know some people want to get into like recreational centers and stuff like that, man, but you really need policy to fight for that's going to divest from those basketball courts, those football fields into upskill production centers. Your libraries can somewhat, be finagled in a way to be a place of upskilling for literacy purposes. But if you want that real hands-on, productive, blue collar sort of upskilling, then you're going to have to take over social spaces, and you're going to have to divest monies from some of these community spaces that are underutilized. And quite frankly, we really don't need any more basketball players and football players, man. We don't need any more athletes, man. We need more skilled professionals that can actually engage within the environment and become more productive. It's not that difficult. If you just start taking the side and really argue from that point on, then all of this becomes easy downhill. But if you don't want to, if you don't want to fight that battle, then what's going to happen here is, man, you're just kicking the can down the road. And now your community goes further into the red, into the negative, and nothing ever comes out of it. And then that's why these young dudes don't respect older dudes. What's the point of them calling you an OG, man, if you ain't putting in no work?
Yeah, I mean, this is just where we at. When I go back home, I'm talking to young dudes about stuff that needs to be done. They was like, damn, man, no one ever talked to me about this, man. I wish somebody would have talked to me about this 6 or 7 years ago. And the thing is that once the so-called, older professionals within that environment hear some of this stuff, they just try to sanitize it and get away from it. Like, no, man, you need to be focused on, netting this uncultured woman. Like, what are you talking about? That real work stuff? Like, man, ain't nobody doing that around here. Yeah, because they're not doing that around there. And they don't want the actual youth, because the youth stays around unproductive men a hell of a lot more than they would ever be around actual people who have their stuff together. Because the actual environment itself is a production of failure over and over again. Unless you have that two-parent household that kind of operates correctly. Other than that, dude, there really ain't that many people who see very productive or very professional men within those type of environments, because those type of environments are ones that are based on Section 8 and all that kind of stuff. So they're never going to see the actual productive dude because their mother don't actually qualify for one. And then all of a sudden you have to follow the standard of masculinity to where you talk stuff about the guy that you actually need to be, rather than focusing on the guy that you don't need to be at the end of the day. It's crazy.
No, imagine if these guys had to write their memoirs, after their 50s, and you had to look back, over time, from junior high to high school, you screwed around, didn't do much, didn't amount to much. You become an adult, 21 to 35. You got chosed up by all the women. 35 to 40 plus. And the economy has shifted in a way that, most people couldn't have predicted. And now you're permanently out of work. And now you're 50 plus and you're sitting on YouTube talking about, the shadow world of being chosed up. Like, that's being chosed up in your youth and having these sort of reminisce stories and whatnot. What kind of lifestyle is that, man? What kind of lifestyle is that? How can you be proud of something like that?
I just want to say very quickly, if you're in a productive environment around productive men, In a productive environment around productive men, there's a requirement for you to be disciplined. There's a certain level of discipline that is going to be spoken to you about. It's like when I talk to my grandson, what's school about? What's this? What's that? Oh, grandpa, sometimes when I talk to you, man, you're always on me about school. Yeah, I am. I want to see you produce. When you're around grandpa gives you whatever you want. I buy you whatever you want. You want for nothing. But at the end of the day, there's a price that comes with that. That means we want you to be a productive young man and do the productive things in life that are going to put you ahead of the game. That's what this is really about. I've got a brother I had 10 years over. My son and my grandson. It's 50 years of looking at grown men rise. Be raised. And the ones who are productive are the ones who are constantly in an environment, or if you're around productive men who are older than you are, they're going to require you to be disciplined about your business. That's what's going on. That's what a lot of these guys don't have. They didn't require their kids to be disciplined. They weren't. So so they stumble around and did whatever, and then how these kids are going to look at them like they're stumbling around in bullshit. That's essentially what you're dealing with. All right, be productive. I've raised children, raised my brother, raised children, grandchild. This is what this game is about. It's about if you're going to be a productive man, you're going to be around productive men. It's going to require a level of discipline, and they're going to require you to be disciplined. That's what this thing is all about. That's where these other guys who are undisciplined and running around can't really match up with. That's why they want to come down on you and run the crap that they run and like things the way they are. They can benefit off of that. We're not about that.
Yeah, it's just that right now that this stuff is too simple to keep up the speed with. Like learning United States history is something that shouldn't be that hard for you if you're being affected by the outcome of you not knowing the history all the time. So when you wait on culture warriors to assign the history to you because you don't want to go learn about the stuff yourself, like other cultures, they know American history better than we do. Other cultures you go to, they know American history a hell of a lot better than we do. They also know that we're the actual outcome of not actually having your shit together that they don't want to be when they come here. They're already briefed on where they're actually going to be at. If you don't have your stuff together, you're going to be like these people. So you got to understand that you can't have this artificial bottom. It's not yours. It's for losers. Artificial bottom, a protected environment. Yeah, that makes sense. But it can't be for you. You got to move up. You can't keep doing stuff in this type of way. It doesn't work overall.
And it's not supposed to work. There wasn't supposed to be success that comes out of the failure. Nothing good was going to come from those sort of ideas that some of these people had. I saw in the 90s, guys sold a lot of drugs and did a lot of stick ups and things like that just so they can go out and buy fucking Jordans and designer jeans and big wheels on cars with candy paint. That was the height of their life. Once the Clinton administration was out of there, man, and 9/11 took place, and they started sweeping those blocks and started getting bulldozing those houses and whatnot, eminent domain, that was it for those guys. There is no 401k or pension from the streets. And these guys slowly started to figure out that nothing is at the end of this. There's no light at the end of the tunnel. Once they got an iPhone or an Android phone and an iPad or something like that and figured out social media, they found their way into this space and became the culture warriors.
Because everything that's based on everything that's real, they were never being able to be a part of that anyway. It's just there's so many people who are this far behind on a collective basis. They're just looking for another voice for the person who just wanted to make them comfortable where they was. And that ain't no way you can be able to have any real type of progress thinking about and talking about things like that.
Yeah. Yeah, so they just bid in their time, and the other objective is to be disruptive. Any intellectual discussions? Nope. Throw the Molotov cocktail bomb in there and set it off.
Yep. They walk in and they firebomb every single discussion about progress. This is why I don't even go on most panels anymore, because I know what is going to be said after I leave. So why would I even waste my time going up there in the first place, dealing with people who ain't got sense enough to not keep inviting non-progressive people to the actual conversation? I mean, you got to intellectually redline some of these people from these conversations. No, you don't get to be a part of the conversation if you're not studied up on shit. No, you just can't come to a conversation, have no information, say a whole bunch of ridiculous stuff, and then everybody has to clean up behind you during the conversation just so that way we can have you as being a part of the conversation. It's crazy.
Yeah. They believe in manosphere intersectionality, man. Everybody must be included. Everybody's a victim. Everybody, must benefit off of the success of other people, man.
Yeah. And you can't move forward like that, man.
No.
Dude, you can't move forward if you cannot be able to produce and actually reproduce with somebody who actually respects production. We keep trying to shoehorn in game as the actual standard when no one has won the game. No one. Yeah. Everybody got the standard of it, but no one has really won. Everybody's playing. There's no victory. It's kind of like, playing a football game with no clock. Like, it doesn't make any sense. At some point, you got to stop playing and actually look at what other people are actually doing within the environment to actually make it, because you don't need a lot of money to make it today. You just don't.
Yeah. Everybody's a pseudo lawyer. Everybody's, playing some form of position that is credible, but in reality, they never had the credibility or the accreditation to actually be that person. That's what social media has become. A bunch of grifters, guys who have failed, who failed in the 90s and they failed in the 2000s, and now they want to come up here and reoccupy spaces of intellectualism with their lack of intellectualism, lack of knowledge on subjects, just galloping their way around. That can't be sustainable going forward. And so the way people got to really manage their panels and manage their channels is by, like you said, intellectually redlining, the disruptors, for that matter, with their objective of just being, disruptive throughout the dialogue. Like, how long do you think this is going to go on for? That's part of the reason why the conversations never really advance. It's always one or two guys with Molotov cocktail bombs. They toss them from a distance and then they leave, man. Or look at the guy in Chicago who threw the bricks through the beauty supply store window because those women were they wanted him to do it. The next day, he goes to jail. And they're right back in there getting their nails done. That's not progress, man.
Sure isn't.
That's not progress.
You got people jumping up on panels with judges who also shouldn't be the voice of anything. Can you hear me? Like, what's going on, man? What's going on? What's happening? What are you doing up here?
Sit down. Quiet. This is crazy, man. Like, I would never, even with my background and everything, man, I would never jump on a panel with a tenured, political or academic professional or, a politician or something like that, unless I have something credible to say. I'm not just sitting around people just to be sitting around them, man, just to, look good. On the avatar, on the screen with the avatar right next to him, like, oh, I was on the panel with, so and so. So, what
did you add to the conversation, man?
Unbelievable, man. Sitting up here talking about all these culture warrior talking points. I'm like, no, if this guy is in his 70s, well retired, you should be trying to pick his brain for the wisdom. You're not up there to showboat with this guy about, culture warrior talking points. That doesn't make any sense. That's a waste of time.
Unreal, man. I mean, but this is where we are. We won't. So we just supposed to like invite the president of the United States to the space, and everybody just talk about, well, you ain't do nothing for black people. Like, like, dude, you don't even know who you're represented by within your city, and it's crazy that you got this level and many of people in this amount of space that don't want to move forward. And it's fine that you bring your entertainment needing ass around here, but yeah, man, I want to create a level of people who's not going to side with these people, who's not going to pick these people, who's not going to hire them, who's not going to rehabilitate them, they women or they kids. I believe in the Dr. Phoenix standard of, look, this is where I am. I'm going to be dealing with equals, not lessers. Hey, if you feel like you're behind, then you need to catch up, because we're not stopping this whole thing to keep trying to re-educate people every step that we make, man. It doesn't make any sense to do business like that. It just doesn't.
No, you're operating at a deficit every single time. Intellectually speaking, you're operating at a deficit. And so, you know, you got a lot of dead weight hanging around the space, and that needs to be cleaned up. Needs to be cleaned up.
I mean, but they look at it as, I'm dead weight, so what are you gonna do about it? Like they really on this who gonna check me bullshit.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
That's what they're doing, man. Hell yeah. I'm ignorant. I don't know shit about the issues. Now what? What you gonna do? What you gonna do? You gonna unplug my internet connection? Like, no, man. Like, that's not what we want. And it's like, this is what they want to go mainstream. This type of idiocy they want to go mainstream. So that way they can call you on the TV show, so they can destroy your credibility even further than the people who already have destroyed it themselves. It doesn't make any sense, dude.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. It is the blackmail version of who gonna check me boo. But but do you really want to be on a panel with like a judge or something like that, not talking about anything credible, not knowledgeable about the topic at hand, don't understand the process, haven't taken the side? What's the purpose of you being around if that's going to be the case? Well, what you going to do? Kick me off the panel? You going to take my wrench away from me? You going to block me? All right, man.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, exactly what it is. Yeah, man, like, bro, you have to be shown the door. Like, man, like, you just can't be like, well, my money's fine here. I'll go. I'm like, no, man, like, hey, man, we reserve the right to refuse business to anybody. Yeah. That's what it is, man. Like, no, like, you can't come up here on some dumb dude stuff, man.
Yeah, instead of Jim Crow, man, we need like a Jim Code.
Yeah.
You drink from that water fountain. You go in that chat room over there, not here.
Yeah, man, just go drink from the uncultured water fountain, man.
Yeah, brown water.
Yeah,
plenty of earth and water down there.
Yeah, just go down there and tell us how much down there, and don't come back up and tell us what is down there. How about that?
Nah, man, go ahead.
It's like, dude, how hard is it to show up once every 2 years after you read the political platform of who's up to vote for? How is it that you got all these dudes, no political organization, no talking about political policies, no talking about job training, but every time Black Lives Matter get a new roll of toilet paper, the whole manosphere on fire with the goofy shit about what's going on there in that private organization that they didn't donate to. Like Black Lives Matter is the only lobbying organization in the whole country.
I can't believe they got 2 parts. I only got 1 part, man. 2 apocalypse now.
It's like, I'm like, dude, you got APAC, the NRA, nothing. They waited till Black Lives Matter become something, and they're like, oh, well, look at what they're doing. Like, you didn't donate to them. How do you have any control over what they're doing? We got grown men talking about slave breeding and bonnets. What's going on?
The NRA gave Trump $30 million, the most they gave to any president in history. And these same people didn't fight for what's his face in Minneapolis.
Philando Castile.
Yeah, Philando Castile.
Yeah.
For all these Second Amendment, Biden's coming to take your guns. What about these guys who are supposed to be the gun lobbying group who won't advocate for you at all? They took a lot of money. In fact, you're a member and they still won't speak on your behalf. And they took your money. You didn't give that other group any money. And yet you're more concerned about what they're doing with whatever it is they received, how many houses they bought, and this, and that. But the same guys who claim to be cultural conservative, black male conservatives, donate to NRA. They're 2A this and 2A that. How come that group that you've donated to doesn't represent you at all? They won't even speak on your behalf.
Unreal. And it's like, they think they're so slick, but they're super dumb with it, right? Yeah. It's like, bro, listen. Keeping up with these issues and topics are not really all that hard. They're on the news. It's not a secret. They have the House and the Senate on C-SPAN. It's a channel. It's 24 hours a day. And it's free in most places. So there's really no reason for not understanding what the hell is going on around you, but just politically trying to, twerk your ass around and trying to talk about things that you don't know anything about. And it's crazy that we have to keep going over this again and again and again.
What's interesting is that you bring up C-SPAN because they won't watch C-SPAN, but they'll watch a MAGA rally though with Diamond and Silk, and got nothing to say about that.
Nothing. Never cover anything.
Nothing to say about Diamond and Silk up there, two-stepping it, for a guy who's not even the president anymore. Like, what is going on here?
Yeah, I mean, we don't call them like Diamond and Silk, like rocks and blunts.
8-ball MJG.
It's like, how come you're not covering what your cultured women are actually talking about? Like, there's no comment about any of that stuff. It's like, it's almost like it doesn't even exist. It don't. It's crazy. Like, okay, all right. So your favorite culture warrior comes on. They're conservative, right? They're so conservative that they're just concerned about the outcome of the liberal woman, right? They're so concerned about it.
Yeah.
And then, they actually get inside your head with your shallow version of masculinity. And then you're worried about how Black Lives Matter spend their money, but you're not worried about how that motherfucker spend your money. All right, man.
Unbelievable, man. The average Trump supporter donates anywhere between $61 to $65 a month to the campaign. And so they didn't get anything out of it because when this guy left office, he didn't pardon anybody at the Capitol.
No.
He pardoned Blackwater, war criminals.
Yeah.
He didn't pardon any of these guys, though. And now these guys are all blowing the whistle on each other because they see there's no future in any of this type of stuff. I'm not a conservative anymore, man. I'm a libertarian. All right, man.
Who you gonna caucus with? What's caucus? You mean like
Mike Dukakis?
Yeah. Like, this is where we at, man. And it's like, it's not like the issue has changed. It's the same dumbass issues every election cycle.
Oh, man.
And it's like we can't move anywhere because they don't want to talk about the big three: policies, politically organizing, or job training. So that way you won't have to be at the bottom. So that way you can solve your money issues.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody wants to do that.
But you got to understand, he was talking to Lil Wayne.
Yeah. Yeah, and Lil Wayne got a pardon because he paid for it. Because like Rudy Giuliani was selling pardons. That's what was happening.
Pardon hustling.
Yeah. But that's okay.
He super chatted a MAGA rally live and got his way out. Unbelievable, man. Meanwhile, Lil Wayne's running around married plus size women, man. What's going on here? Hey, how come none of these guys covering it?
They tried to assign that to the SYSB. I'm like, man, I don't know about that, man.
Yeah.
Nah, man.
This guy is running around with plus size women, getting locked up, getting pardons from the former president, and no one is saying anything about this at all, but giving him credit for talking to a president who's no longer in office. Unreal.
Yeah, this is crazy.
But this shows you the mentality of these guys. Like, how can you do business with people like this? Well, you got to understand, he's talking to Ice Cube. Have you read Ice Cube's policy initiative? Ice Cube doesn't even know what his policy initiative is. Look at what happened when he went on Roland Martin, looking at the screen like, because I got high. You know, that guy.
You know what the fuck was going on?
He looked just like Zero's avatar.
Yeah, the fucking mathematical symbols and shit. And here's the thing, most of this shit was actually socialists and communists, and these dumb motherfuckers was just championing this shit. I'm like, hold on a second. Like, what's going on? Like, you want to be represented by this guy? It's like all that shit is socialism. All that shit was quote unquote socialism. But yeah.
Yeah, you know, well, we got to understand Trump has the platinum plan. Why would somebody call it a platinum plan? For what purpose, right? And so it was one page, and these guys didn't even read it.
Of course not. Why would they read it?
Not watching C-SPAN, didn't read the platinum plan, didn't read Ice Cube's policy initiative with contract with Black America. You know, giving props to Lil Wayne and 50 Cent for talking to him. I don't know if you can organize with any of these guys, man.
Yeah, and it's like, well, what about the funding for HBCUs? I'm like, you think that's some conservative shit? Really?
Yeah.
You think that's a conservative shit? Oh, okay.
Yeah, and not understanding that you yourself don't believe in going to school, much less an HBCU. So why would you care about all of a sudden now that there's funding going to HBCUs that you have no interest in?
That's where we at, man. Anything is a win for them. Anything is a win for them. They will. I'm like, they will be like, yeah, and Trump wanted to show up Social Security, and they would just say nothing about it. They won't even realize it's every bit of the socialism and all that stupid shit that they claim that they don't want. Unreal. That's where we at, man.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. You can't build a code of personality like that on the left because no one wants to hear that shit. We want to talk about policies and the outcomes. And here's the other thing on the right. The culture fucking actual conservative women don't want to be around a fucking unproductive entertainment motherfucker. They don't want to be around that shit. And any big business conservative black dude, they don't want to be around that shit either. Because they know that you ain't to be trusted.
Yeah, liberal women don't want them, and neither do conservative women. Gotta explain. I mean, at the end of the day, you can say what you want about Cardi B and Meg Thee Stallion. Okay, you don't like WAP. Okay, fine. Where are the conservative women that you can uphold on your panels? Your panel should be full of conservative women. If the smoke was real with conservatism, they should be all lined up to get on your panel like Fresh and Fit. How's that working out for them?
Yeah, but they're not actually like Candace Owens and what's this Brandon Tatum dude or Jesse Lee Peterson talking about that. You know, they was lying about the a historical event. I'm like, dude, these dudes are synced to any level, man.
Holocaust deniers, man.
Yeah.
I don't believe that there. I have to push back against TVA because I don't believe that there's culture warriors on the left because you got to name them. Who's a culture warrior on the left?
Really?
You got to name them. I mean, are you going to say that Anna Kasparian is a culture warrior? Really? I mean, are you going to say Cenk Uygur is a culture warrior? I don't know, man. I'm not seeing it.
TVA, come on, man. The feminists are on both sides of the divide. There's no difference between like Ann Coulter and anybody you would name on the left. No difference, none whatsoever. Because none of those so-called conservative women are not fighting against feminism. They're not. They're really not. The women are one group.
Yeah, what about the culture warriors who went up to Michigan State Capitol and threatened to kidnap, the governor and the lieutenant governor, man, and the other cabinet members? How come that doesn't get pointed out as being a culture warrior, but somehow, the feminists? I mean, like you said, Michelle Malkin and all these other feminists. I don't see them hopping up on black conservative channels, man. I don't see them running around with Brandon Tatum.
Not at all. ABL, I don't see them over there. I mean, women are one group, man. I cannot say that enough. They're not fighting against their own power base as a group. Like the women are one group, like how most other races are one group. They get results because they work together behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Yeah, like they're not out here like outwardly fighting each other over dumb shit. Like, no, they're actually one group of people. They actually are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So there's no such thing as these group of cultured women who's trying to like overturn abortion and like all that shit. No, man. But they may talk a good game and all this shit, but they're not out there actually doing anything.
Mm-hmm.
They're not trying to take their own rights away.
Especially when Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Yeah.
I don't see Lauren Boebert. I don't see her talking about that. The only thing she's talking about is keeping businesses open. Now that the market is open back up, what's her purpose in office? What's the purpose of being in office, man? Be a one-term congressional person.
Yeah. Oh, Doug, don't say that, man. Don't say that, man.
Oh yeah, I told you that.
Man, I gotta hear that. Wow.
Yeah, maybe I was saying that to you before. Black libertarians now. When the conservatism fell in January, that was it. Well, I'm a libertarian now. Yeah, but you take the middle because then you don't have to take a side.
Yeah. Now you're worse than the conservative because now you don't have a party of representation.
Yeah, that's why Larry Sharp on YouTube, I told him that. I said, the Libertarian Party is not friendly to brothers like that. What are you talking about? And I'm not against anybody who is an actual libertarian. I believe that there are a few people in this space who are legitimate libertarians. Whether Xanatos Clutch or somebody like Ty City, I think he's a legitimate libertarian.
Yeah. Yeah.
My perspective on Black libertarians is that they uphold the Constitution and they don't want you interfering with it, and they don't care about what you do on your side as long as they can keep what they're doing on their side. So if that means that they don't agree with rainbow flags, they're perfectly fine with you doing what you're doing on your side as long as you don't mess with them on what's going on their side. I think what's happening though is that people are trying to take conservative values into libertarianism and not understanding that was never the purpose of it.
No, it sure wasn't. I mean, because like most of these so-called libertarians don't even know who Wayne Allen Root is. Don't even know.
Yeah.
Like what? Root beer? Yeah. So it's like, all right. It's kind of like how after Bush got out of office, how everybody was an independent until the Tea Party shit came around, and then like everybody was right wing again. Dude, it's gonna be nothing but another rebranding effort.
Mm-hmm.
Until they find a place for them to actually go, they're gonna be libertarian for right now.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, they're gonna be right back wherever the hell like the new landing place is. And it's kind of like, come on, man, it's too easy to see.
But you got to be a libertarian in the right place. You can't just be a libertarian in New York City, man. It doesn't work like that, man.
Yeah, come on, man.
You can't be a libertarian in Atlanta, man. It doesn't work like that, man.
I'm a libertarian, but I'm in Mississippi. All right, man. Where your party at, man? Like who you gonna go to get your actual laws passed? Like, come on, man.
Yeah. So, Brandon Tatum and all these other guys, like I said, man, I'm not seeing any culture warriors on the left. I can't find anybody who you can actually name that we can all identify with to say and agree that, hey, that person's a leftist culture warrior. I'm not seeing it. What are you gonna say? David Pakman is a culture warrior? Really?
Yeah. All right. So it's like this. Name me the black guy who they go to defend racist bullshit on the left. Name me that guy who's like the
Mike Malloy.
I wouldn't say Mike Malloy is a culture warrior. I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say Mike Malloy is a culture warrior. He's definitely on the left. He's never not been on the left.
Mm-hmm.
Never not been on the left. I mean, most of the stuff that he says you can't play on TV. Well, you can play it on YouTube. No, Mike Malloy is on the left. He's not a culture warrior. He is not. He's talking about actual policies. Like, hold on a second.
Who are you gonna say? Dr. Richie is a culture warrior?
No, he's not a culture warrior. I've been listening to Mike Malloy since he was on Air America. That dude's not a culture warrior. He's not a culture warrior. He's actually talking about the policies and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
He's always talked about the policies. Yeah, the dude's not a culture warrior. He's not a culture warrior. The dude is always talking about policies and policy proposals and things that the government isn't doing.
Yeah, the thing about the left is that culture is always in perpetual motion. So they never stick with the same thing. Like what was popular, 20 years ago, you couldn't walk around in rainbow flags was not a thing 20 to 25 years ago. Now it is, right? So what I'm saying is the trajectory has changed over time. Whereas if you look at the right and the culture warriors on the right, they're trying to take women back to pre-Roe v. Wade. They're trying to go back to a time that they themselves never lived today. And so that's the culture war that they're trying to uphold and fight. Whereas on the left, they're about moving things forward as much as possible and as fast as possible. That's why decriminalization of marijuana, that came from the progressives. That didn't come from the right. If it was up to the right, they would actually keep it in place and keep locking more black men up, right? And the same thing with a woman's right to choose or something like that. They're trying to take that back. They're not trying to move forward. If you leave it up to them, there would be no YouTube or iPhones or anything like that, man. They'll have you running around with a Game Gear, man. That's about the extent of technology that you have.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, you said like the griot? I'm not. Yeah, but they're journalists though. I don't consider them to be culture warriors in that regard.
I mean, it's kind of like because they're LGBT or they're feminists, they're automatically a culture warrior. No, I don't buy that. That's not the same as the actual people with dead set shit on the right. They always try to tie things back. Like right now, the critical race theory shit's been around since the 70s. They're now trying to turn that into anti-American shit because you can't talk about the actual history of actual people doing fucked up shit to actual people of color when it comes to actual what do you call it? Statistics. Statistics are not lying. Statistics are not a culture war. This is what actually happened. What's going on, Blaze?
Hey, what's going on? Yeah. He says Al Sharpton. I don't know if I can put Al Sharpton.
Me neither. Yeah.
Because he's a civil rights advocate, right? This civil rights advocate. So how can he be a culture warrior, right? But I can understand why they would try to put him in there, that anybody who advocates for justice is somehow the equivalent of a culture warrior. But if you listen to what Brandon Tatum said last week, he basically is saying that the Tulsa massacre is similar to what BLM is doing now. That's a culture warrior. Okay, that's a culture warrior. I'm not saying that Village Arsonist agrees with this. I'm saying to understand what a culture warrior is in real, on this on this platform and in this day and age, that's really who a culture warrior is, man. They skip past all sorts of history and hope that the people who are listening to this can't call them out on it.
That's just what we had, man. So, you got anything else, Mike, before we get up out of here?
Nah, man. Thanks for having me on.
All right, cool. I want to thank everybody for coming through. Going forward, if you hear people talking about all this type of bullshit when it comes to, like, do they number culture warriors, and they ain't going nowhere. They're just trying to provide a level of entertainment for people who ain't moving, man. And it's ridiculous. And it doesn't even make any sense. And before I leave, I'm going to show you an actual PhD who actually studies policy and what it looks like when you debate somebody consistently on the right who shows up to a conversation about a specific issue but doesn't know anything about what's being discussed, but trying to have the conversation anyway as if they do. Hold on a second. Let me show you this. Because it's very important that you know how this looks. You will never find a conservative out there actually discussing policy.
The reason why we have a constitutional crisis is because the state legislators were bullied into making changes, and now we're complaining about voting rights when we have 17 days of early voting in all these states. It's nonsense. There's no limited access to voting, and this was a bully play.
Let me give you some facts about voting. Let me give you some facts about the actual bill itself. So let's go to Senate Bill 202, which is your.
See, he showed up to a conversation to talk about a very specific thing and did not know anything about the actual issue itself. So then you have to re-educate people on the actual conversation that's being had while the conversation is going on. Now, there's a couple people in this space who do this. You got the Trees in the NBD who does this. You have the whack-ass the artist formerly known as Hoodservative who does this. And when you don't moderate panels, these people just jump up here and say anything, and then you have to actually re-educate people on what the actual conversation is about because they're not trying to have the conversation. They don't give a shit about history.
Your Georgia restricted voting bill. Here's what it does. Here's the restriction it creates.
Is it restrictive as New York's? Who are the people? Who are the big corporations who have pulled out of New York?
Okay, so I'm talking about Senate Bill 202. Michael, I'm talking about Senate Bill 202. And let me explain to you and everyone who's watching where the restrictions came in, since you think there were no restrictions in these state bills. Not only did it make it an actual crime to hand someone food or water without them campaigning whatsoever, it made it a misdemeanor offense, punishable by 1 year in jail. You as a person that's damn near libertarian, if not all the way libertarian, should appreciate the fact that we don't need extra laws on the book to regulate something that's already regulated. It is already illegal to electioneer on the precinct ground. That's already against the law. You don't need to also make it against the law to not be involved in electioneering and to hand somebody water. So I think you and I would agree that should not have been part of Senate Bill 202. Beyond that, another restriction that it created is it de facto eliminated Sunday voting. Souls to the polls, utilized primarily by Black churches on Sunday, was a ministry and civil engagement operation. But the Senate bill said you got to do one or the other, either Saturday or Sunday, rather than allowing Saturday and Sunday to be decided by each county. Also, it takes away the ability of the local Board of Elections director to oversee campaigns if the state legislature decides to appoint their own superintendent. I thought Republicans were for localized government and less government intrusion. However, that bill specifically creates government intrusion, takes away local control from the 159 counties in Georgia under Senate Bill 202. Those things have got to disturb you as a libertarian-like individual.
You know what disturbs me? HR1 and CTCL and Zuckerberg's play.
What did that guy just do? What did that guy just do? After he got through explaining to him what the actual bill was about, he just went on to talk about some other shit. This is what culture warriors do. They don't even try to stay on the topic to which they come to debate. They lose on one topic and then they just switch the topic up and keep switching the topic up. Why? Because they're not even required to bring anything to the table. So now we're going to keep going.
Where do you stand on those? Because I want to find common ground.
HR1, I'm for it 100%. I think it's necessary to pass. What element of HR1 are you against?
You want the mail-in ballot fiasco we had so that we can further undermine our elections?
How many people, what was the percentage of election fraud in the mail-in balloting system?
Well, that would require an actual examination of the fraud, wouldn't it?
That would require you actually.
You see, he asked him a direct question about what he actually is for, and he can't even answer the question. They're here to waste time. They show up to conversations and they don't even want to discuss actual issues. This is the same shit that they do in the fucking manosphere.
Actually looking at a fact or two. You are correct.
All right. And how do you feel about Zuckerberg spending 400?
See how he just moved to another topic when he was stumped on the actual topic? He just moved to another topic. He didn't even answer the question. This is what these dudes do.
100 million on ballot drop boxes in Pennsylvania. You like that?
Yeah, I'm fine. As long as the drop boxes are certified by that county and that local government is able to secure those votes, those are American citizens voting and utilizing the convenience of a location in order to express their constitutional right in democracy. I'm good with it.
So you're anti-voter ID too, I take it?
Yeah. You know why I'm anti-voter ID? Fundamentally, you know why?
Why?
You ever ask somebody why? Do you believe voting is a right, Michael?
Yeah.
You do believe it's a right?
Yeah.
Explain this to me. In the United States, in most states, you can legally purchase a gun from a private owner without showing your ID.
They've changed that. Not here.
Yes, I got you. But in most states, let me provide the context. Because we have deemed having a firearm is, in fact, a right. And you don't have to show the ID in order to purchase from a private gun seller. Also,
hey, doctor, you ever gone bowling?
Oh, wait a minute, Mike.
See what happened there? He moved on to another statement. He moved on. That's right. He lost on that statement too. And look how he wants to move on to another conversation. He's just throwing shit in the road. This is what conservatives do, especially the culture warriors. They can't answer questions. They don't even know shit about that thing.
Michael, don't do that, brother. But
You ever gone bowling?
Michael.
You ever gone bowling?
Michael, Are you going to let me finish?
You get the $4 rental
Michael.
of bowling shoes. You got to have an
Michael.
ID. You leave the ID at the front.
Are
You're
you
not
finished?
playing. You need an ID.
Okay.
There
I'm going
is
to go ahead. Cut his microphone. I'm going to go ahead and make my point because there are some people that can care about the truth. Cut his mic.
People not have
Cut his mic.
ID.
Okay. Here's the reality. The reality is this. Every right that you have, your freedom of speech, your right to assemble, all of these rights do not require you to utilize your ID in order to exercise it. None of the rights require that. And all of a sudden, you must present your ID in order to exercise your right to vote, when you do not need your ID to exercise any other right. The irony behind that is this. 20 years ago, nobody can hear you, brother. I cut your mic. 20 years ago, nobody in the United States of America had to produce an ID in order to exercise their right to vote. Nobody. It was a trick launched by the Republican Party in order to start massaging who voted, to start limiting who engaged in that process. All right, Michael, are you there? We can bring you back now. All right, let's unmute Michael.
Doug, that's a good question. They actually keep track of that. By the way. That's how you get caught with voter fraud. Is when you go to an actual precinct, there's a list, a big long ass list, and if you live in that precinct, they actually cross your name off the list for that particular county or voter place that you actually go to. So if you go to another place within the same county and your name is actually still on the list and you vote twice, that's how they catch your ass for voting. So when I think last election cycle, it was 2 black women who actually voted in 2 different places. That's how they got caught. And yes, when you do get caught voting twice, I want your ass locked up every time for it, because they cross your name off of a list every time you vote at a specific place. So that's how that works. So it's not really that hard to understand that. But that's what happens. They cross your name off of a list. And most of the voting shit is actually on tape. So they know what name they're crossing off the list after you go in there. And it's not worth getting all them years, because if you vote twice as a black person, you going your ass to jail every time. Yep, that shit happens too. It sure does. It sure does. There's a lot of people who mail in vote ballot in one state, and then they turn around and they vote in precinct in the person in the next state. And like I said, they always catch the shit because there's redundancies there that actually check the actual voter shit. And most places in the United States, you don't even need an ID to live or do anything. That's why it's a problem, because IDs cost money. $25, sometimes $50 to $75. If I wanted to go get my CDL again, I think it cost me about $75 to go get a goddamn CDL again, if I actually needed that. So.
Let's unmute Michael. Michael, unmute yourself.
Here's the thing. He talked throughout that whole explanation because that's what he wanted to do. He wanted to over-talk people during the whole thing. It's the same shit that Treason the NBD do, and that, the artist formerly known as the Hoodservative does. It's very easy to do when you have an unmoderated panel that just lets you do whatever the fuck you want to do. That's not all states, and it's definitely not in the South where they're actually making these states at. Well, those actual voter laws at. So that's not the case. If you could show me the states that came up with the laws and cross-check that with all the people who got these things in place, I'm with you. But it's a made-up issue, and it really don't matter.
Yourself, brother. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
You muted me. I got to unmute myself.
Yeah, I don't know why it works like that, man. But once again, go ahead. I'll let you get the final word. The show is about over.
All right. Well, look. the reason for having to show an ID is because the system gets abused if you don't. The system gets abused. One person, one vote. One person, one vote. It's fair. You need an ID for anything else. There's simply no logical argument.
You don't need an ID for every other right, brother. Quite the contrary. And remember, there's no statistical significance of voter fraud in order to warrant the constitutional intrusion of telling me I must present an ID in order to exercise my constitutional right. I appreciate you.
When I drew the 2016 election, I had 4 Uber drivers who told me they were voting here.
Another Gish Gallup. He can't handle the argument, so this is what we have. They draw the fucking conversation off the rails. This is the type of shit you have in the manosphere.
In California, and then they were driving in Nevada to vote there.
Hey, man.
You know why that's possible?
Yeah.
Because you don't have to show an ID, and you don't have to show where you live. So I'm telling.
Again, he's lying. If your name is not on the fucking list in the goddamn state, you don't get to vote there. That's how that works. Dude, listen. You can't just I can't just cross over in the. Well, I don't live anywhere near like the borders of any state, but I just can't drive the fucking Wyoming and vote there and turn around and drive all the way I-25 all the way south to like New Mexico and vote there. Then I can't take 25 north and go up to I-70 and go east and actually vote in Kansas, and then I turn around on I-70 west and go all the way to Utah and vote there. No, but see, they don't want you same day registering and voting though. Hard work. They don't want you doing that shit either. Like, the bill has a lot of shit in there that takes all that stuff out of there. That you think is covered, that shit really isn't covered like that. I think if you can get your ass locked up without an ID, I think you should be able to vote without an ID. It's a made up issue. It doesn't make any sense. It's not like you as a black dude go up there and tell them that your name is like Juan fucking Hernandez and they fucking let you vote. That ain't how that shit works. That is not remotely how that shit works. But no, they present the argument in a way that causes unneeded confusion.
On you're peddling nonsense if you're telling me that.
Michael, I cannot believe you would say anybody on this planet is peddling nonsense, sir. Come on, man.
There you go. You want my perspective? You got it.
Yeah, I damn sure did. We all got your perspective, brother. And I appreciate you for at least standing up for what you believe in, even if it is bat-ish crazy. I appreciate you being on Indisputable. Thank you, man.
Talk to you next year.
That's how they argue in the manosphere. Every black conservative, when you see them argue about any issue, they don't even know about the issue. Whenever you got them stumped on that issue, they just turn around and start talking about some other shit right in front of your face. I'm telling you. Or else, whatever they talk about, they try to tie it to the culture war. This is how these people do shit. And we've become so abreast into watching these people do this stuff over and over again, to the point to where it literally doesn't even make any sense to not talk to people who are not even discussing policy. Yeah. They don't even study the issue. They just change the subject in the middle of you discussing the shit. Nope. As a conservative, you don't have to rebut any question. The only thing you have to do is just turn around and just start talking about some other shit. This is why you can't have policy discussions with people who don't give a fuck about policy. That's what it turns into. That dude was being trolled in that whole conversation, trying to keep the dude on topic, and he kept just introducing more and more topics. The actual definition of the Gish-Gallup fallacy. And this is why most people can't talk about policy, because they can't make no money off the shit. Yeah, you have to read the shit. It's not hard. So, all right, I just wanted to let you guys know that. And every Sunday, we're going to come back and show you how yet and still another culture warrior is coming through, and they're going to have the same type of talking points. the same type. And they're just not even going to know how to discuss any issue because they're not required to discuss the issues over there. So I want to thank you guys for coming through on The Man Tomorrow. You guys have a really nice day. Peace.